And with that, we can get started with a Ward 6 update from Councilmember Jim Perry.
All right. Hello, everyone. Glad to be here. Glad to see everyone tonight. Things are starting to open up a little bit. I'm going to take a few moments and talk about, briefly talk about the tragic event that occurred last week, and maybe go over a little bit of our homeless services and how we deal with homeless on a daily basis. The event that occurred a week ago Saturday, it's tragic, senseless, should have never happened, act of a coward. One thing that I can't share with you, some limited information I can share with you, is the person was under the influence of a narcotic. I can also share with you that there are no known associates with anyone in that particular neighborhood or perhaps even in the entire city. It has brought about a lot of discussions, to be honest with you. We're reviewing many of our policies and how we provide services to our community, because we want our community not only to feel safe, but to be confident that they are safe in the community. The police department has beefed up some of the patrols here on the west side and will continue to do so for the immediate future. Even though it's good that an arrest has been made, but at the same time, when it comes to a homicide investigation, the investigation doesn't stop at that point, and oftentimes it is just the beginning to try to figure out who this person is, what they are, what their intent was, and that's something our police department is working on. And I'm fully confident that our Riverside County District Attorney's Office will deal with this in the most appropriate manner through the court system. Having said that, let me just take a few moments and discuss some of the homeless issues that we face. I'm going to try to condense this in just a few moments, because I could literally talk about it for probably 3 to 4 hours. I want to assure everyone that the City of Riverside does have an active homeless plan. A lot of times all you hear about is the housing that the city is providing, but it's much more than that. We have a program we refer to as PSET, the Public Safety Engagement Team. This is a team that works 7 days a week solely dealing with homeless issues every single day. If you call in homeless issues, whether by calling into 311 or using your 311 app, the teams get that information, and that's how they make their daily assignments on where they're going to go. But this PSET team is a team. It's made up of police officers, homeless outreach workers, code enforcement, and our public works and our code enforcement team. They go out as a team on every single day. They work an 8 to 10 hour shift, and their sole purpose is to deal with homeless issues. A couple of examples I can provide to you is when they go out, whether it's an encampment or it's an individual, there's a homeless outreach worker there. So if the person wants services, they can provide it immediately. The police department does do enforcement. Sometimes they have to be selective in that enforcement, because once we remove the police officers from the PSET team, in essence, it takes them out of service, because it's not safe for our team to go out and interact with large homeless encampments and some of the individuals. Our public works and code enforcement, they do some work on property owners, and public works is there to help do cleanups. And this is a much simplified version, because before we can do cleanups, there are a number of laws and court decisions that kind of handcuff what the city can do, when they can do it, and how quickly we can act. So oftentimes, before we can clean up an encampment, particularly in public right-of-ways on public property, often we have to provide them a 3-day notice and give them an opportunity to move. Same thing when you go drive down the street and you see a shopping cart with property inside of it. Again, before we can remove it, our code enforcement will go out and they'll tag it. 3 days later, they'll go out and they'll confiscate the property. That's based on a court decision through the state of California that prevents us from just picking up and destroying property that could potentially belong to a homeless person. That's a tough situation. We're often asked, why do we allow people to camp on our sidewalks and in our parks? We actually have a camping ordinance in the city. It's not solely meant for the homeless. It's camping ordinances for everyone. There are no homeless laws. It's not illegal to be homeless, let's put it that way. But before we can enforce our camping ordinance, and this comes from a court decision out of the Ninth Circuit up in Idaho, before we can enforce our camping ordinance, the officer has to call our shelter, determine if there's space available. then they have to provide that homeless person opportunity to take that space in the homeless shelter. The homeless person literally has to refuse that service before we can enact or arrest them for our camping ordinance. That's not our decision. Again, it came through the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeal. It went up to the U.S. Supreme Court, and they chose not to hear that case. So it's in essence, it's the law of the land. We deal with many, many court issues throughout the state. Some of them are come out of Sacramento. Some of them are court decisions. Some of those are approved by voter-approved initiatives that people in the state of California enact. But what I want to assure you is, despite all of the tightrope that sometimes our personnel have to walk, oftentimes they feel handcuffed, our personnel still go out there and deal with this on an everyday basis. If there's someone who wants services, the services are available. The event last Saturday, I'm not really tying it to homeless at this point. That person should have never been released from jail. A couple days prior to that, they assaulted somebody with a skateboard. Riverside Police Department arrested them, took them into the Riverside County Jail. I want to be real clear on this. The Riverside Police Department had absolutely nothing to do with citing and releasing this person. The jail is under mandates such as the police department. They have to maintain their populations, their jail population. In this particular case, due to the COVID emergencies last year, there was an order given on this no bail clause to release people from jail. It appears that the Riverside County Superior Court judges enacted this amendment to the law, and I believe they're also dealing with it now. This whole situation has brought about many discussions amongst many people within the city. Some of it's with our legal staff. Some of it we're just looking and reviewing and evaluating what we do and how we can do things better. A couple other issues we deal with on the homeless on a daily basis. We have individuals, or we have property owners who are tolerant of the homeless, and they allow them to stay on their property, and they allow it until it gets so large that then they want us, the city, to come and clean it up. We have food establishments throughout the city, including some on here on the west side, who feed them. Our police department has gone in and asked them not to do that, and in essence, many of them have told them, don't tell us who we can feed and who we can't. We have individuals who drive up and down the Magnolia corridor feeding the homeless, and we try to dissuade them not to. We try to tell people it's not a bad thing to help the homeless, but if you want to do it in a manner, give money to a legitimate organization through the city or county where you know it's going to a legitimate cause. Other issues we deal with, we have the county psych facility right behind Lowe's there at Magnolia and Harrison. And chances are, I'll be quite honest with you, I think some other cities clean up their homeless issue by taking them for a 72-hour psych evaluation, I should say, at this facility. They don't keep them for 72 hours. And they tell us that they're making progress at returning them at their point of origin. They kick them out the front door. And when they go out the front door, guess whose backyard they end up in? They end up in ours. And we're having conversations with the county to address that issue. We're having conversations with the county regarding the Project Room Key project that goes on throughout the city. And there's many, many other conversations that are taking place to see what we can do to try to curb some of the homeless issue. But the thing that I want to just make certain is this is just kind of a very, very brief overview of the services we provide. So there are services and we are doing things. We do have multiple teams who go out on a daily basis to deal with this. And despite the restrictions that are placed on us, we continue to go out and do that every single day, trying to make some of this go away. One of the other, and I spoke about the gas station in Magnolia and La Sierra a few times, what I can't share with you. We started litigation with that property owner last year. It went to mediation here just a couple months ago. And what came out of these court proceedings is, one, he has to clean up the property. Two, he has to start doing some landscape, which he's done. He has to provide some lighting on the building. He's provided that, but it's solar lighting and it probably isn't producing the amount of light that it's supposed to. He's supposed to have a roving security company that's supposed to go through that gas station multiple times during the course of the day. And he is in the process of getting permits through the city so he can demolish the two large canopies that are out there. That might take a little bit. He has to get another permit through the AQMD because of potential asbestos and canopies that are out there. So that's it. That's a very brief, very fast overview of what happened last Saturday, and a very, very brief overview of the homeless services that we provide. Like I said, I could talk for probably 3 hours on this. Other than that, school's open. That's a good thing. It's nice to see students on school grounds again. We haven't been to an actual site yet. We've driven by a few. We've interacted with a couple principals on a couple projects that we have going. So those are all really good things that are happening. Next Saturday at Bryant Park, not this Saturday, but 9 days from now, there is going to be another food distribution program at Bryant Park. I believe that runs from 2 in the afternoon until 5 in the evening. So that's a very brief overview. Hopefully I didn't take up too much time.